So let's talk about the Youth Summit that's coming up that you're going to be attending. What about South African youth that are going to be represented there? Do you think can really sort of contribute to the global discussion?
I think South Africa finds itself, especially in the youth aspect, in a very unique situation, because we're not completely developing as a nation, because we do have urban settings and we do have rural settings, and that's where our youth is in a unique position to be in the forefront, so we can be the voice of the global South. Not saying that the other African countries, we all need to speak as one voice in terms of the youth, because this is our future, and I think that South African youth do have a big part to play. We're going with two other delegates, myself, well, obviously myself, but Blessing Titi and Happy Kambule, which they also work for Project 90 by 2030, and they all youth. So we have a very diverse, but also, should I say, passionate spirit of the youth that's going forward.
And there is something incredibly passionate and spirited about South African youth. There's no doubt about it. So let's look forward then to COP20. What are the real discussions that you are really interested in hearing about and getting involved in?
So specifically in Lima, there will be everyone keeps talking about Paris, which is 2015, and the big agreement will be signed there. But I think, and my colleague Happy shares the sentiment, that Lima is very important, because you need to know what's going into the agreement before you sign it, and that's where Lima comes into play. There's a mechanism called the INDCs, which is the intended...
Another acronym.
Yes. intended nationally determined contributions. So each nation will come up with ways that they can decrease their carbon emissions, put in more energy efficient mechanisms, move towards more low carbon intense methods of energy supply. And so these INDCs will be discussed in Lima, and then there'll be the first quarter of next year, each nation will come out with what they want to do. Is it going to be putting up renewable energy by a certain amount of time? How much of renewable energy? Is it aligned with the required by science decrease? Because we all know that we can't have global temperature increases that are what's the word I'm looking for? That are endless, should I say? But we're looking at 1.5 degrees of a global temperature increase, which is being really optimistic. So these INDCs will inform our desired emission reduction outcomes, which are DEROs, which is another acronym. And that's specifically in South Africa. We have the PPD, which is the peak, plateau, and decline. And that's how our emission reductions are working. So our DEROs inform our PPD. And that's how hopefully that's how we're going to inform our INDCs. And we want, as our organization and as youth, we want more renewable energy and more accountability for the decisions that are made. It needs to be implementable decisions, and it's time for ambitious targets. As South Africans and as a community, we need to take it forward.
And it's certainly encouraging to hear that it's not just going to be a delegation of people just speaking about something, but when these delegates come home, there's going to be a plan put in place.
There has to be. I think that's what everyone wants to hear, is an actual plan that will go forward. And I think maybe the INDCs, as much as it's just a contribution, it puts in place goals and targets and deadlines that need to be reached.